but not this time around. But Breathe going to get his hands on the Jax, and this is something that both of these top laners really prioritize.
I think that's a huge steal when we're talking about Fearless, being able to take away the Jax for someone like Bin. Big takeaway. We'll see. Also, surprising to note, no Pantheon quite yet. So I wonder if that's going to be something else that we start to see. Big one, especially for someone like Weibo. As now BLG, what exactly are their answers? What exactly are they looking for in the first part of this draft? The Xayah, I'll be honest, not a huge fan of it. I'm glad you got the support pair. It's not great for the Rakan into Leona, but Xayah just feels like, yes, you have the tools to get out of fights, but I don't think it matches, and I think that this champion is pretty bad right now.
It does allow for that synergy in the 2v2, but you know, just when you think of some of the other bot laners that Elk could have picked up, you even saw him hover one in the Jinx. Not going to be that one this time around. That'll wait for potentially another game, as the Misfortune will round out that bottom lane. A classic bot lane pairing. You land the Solar Flare on top of the bullet time. You're going to have a good time if you are Weibo, and that will send us into the second phase of bans.
So what mid laners can we expect to see from these two? Because there's no Aurora being already banned here, and typically so far this season we've seen Xiaohu tend towards more of the control mages, moving away from our Silas's, Akali's, and now the addition of something like an Aurora. For BLG though, Knight already playing the Syndra game like you had noted already. I think that I want to see more explosive mid lane picks coming in from BLG to just kind of use Knight as a weapon. He was the golden left hand of JDG when they won all those splits in 2023. Now I want to see something a little bit similar to that. Him and Wei really be explosive, especially if we do think that this Maokai is going into the jungle.
And some champions that I have been a little bit surprised to see not hit the ban table so far. Most notably, one champion is the Nocturne. That was taken away in the first phase last game by Weibo on blue side. And Xiaohu is a very good Orianna player. That could be an option here for Weibo as well. As we finish up this second phase of ban, still the flexibility of that Maokai can also become a factor, as we'll see if Bin wants to flex up into that matchup. With the Jax, it shouldn't be too bad, all things considered, and it looks like BLG have called out that potential for the Nocturne or the Orianna not going to be available here this game.
I think the Nocturne still does well for someone like Weibo. They will need some kind of mid laner that is going to be able to set up the rest of the team and kind of lock down BLG, but I think would still have the ability to fight. And going up against the Rakan, it seems like Weibo really want to build out a strong team fight, but Jax on a side lane is going to be really potent, and you don't really have too many members are going to be able to hold the enemy team in BLG for this Misfortune. So now, what do BLG on blue side go for? They're going to be the ones to take the Nocturne. They want to try to outrange their opponents, utilize the Maokai and this Rakan to snap with the Nocturne. They need big damage coming in on 5.
Talia, not necessarily that. However, it can dish out a little bit later on the game. Later the game goes on, as it will be Knight locking that one in. A lot of semi-global presence here in the mid-jungle for BLG to round out their composition. And Tian hovering some spicy champions here on this R5 potentially. Could it be the Volley Bear? Could it be a flex of the Jax into the jungle to get a better matchup here for the Maokai, as Volley Bear does very, very well into tanks?
They're thinking
about it.
Looks
like that might be
now.
what they decide to go for. No, the Viego instead going to be the option, as Tian will lock in that pick here in game 3.
Good damage coming in from mid and bot here. The Viego, the last pick here for Tian, and if he can find resets, that'll be a big win for Weibo, as long as they're able to get this bullet time down, get the ultimate from Victor. And for BLG, they need to make the mid 2v2 unlivable for Xiaohu. When you are playing with this Talia and this Nocturne, anytime Victor has flash, you need to be able to look to blow it with the seismic shove, get good team fight, and they have set up. They have a lot of crowd control. I think the Unraveled Earth coming in from Talia is going to provide so much work. You also have the ability to turn off the lights. Rakan plus this Maokai offer a lot of crowd control. I'm just worried a little bit about this damage, and they are remarkably susceptible. I think that if one thing goes wrong or one ability is astray, BLG fall apart at the seams.
Yeah, I really agree with you on that mid jungle here. For BLG, if they can they even have the ability to send Rakan and send Maokai into the mid lane. It's not like they're going to be losing too much in terms of their matchup, right? They're okay with sacking a wave or two to allow for their team to get ahead, just the way the composition has been built up so far. As BLG with a bit of a deviation from the standard, I guess we could say, this time around. They've gone with some slightly unorthodox picks. You know, the Zyra Khan, not as popular. Things like the Talia in the mid lane, not as popular. The Maokai top lane, maybe gaining a little bit more popularity recently, but not necessarily the champion we would associate with a player like Bin. But they're going to need to pull things out well if they want to take that 2-1 lead here in the series. We're on to the Rift for game number 3 of BLG versus Weibo.
Oh, man. Such a fun game, I think, for these two teams, especially with all the history they were talking about beforehand. But I am so looking forward to what this 2v2 can do. Just when we look at bottom lane, Elk and On have so far been able to find some of their footing, but it hasn't really gone off to as much of a great start as we saw last year or in 2023. Light and Hung are still trying to figure out some of their synergy there. So despite some of the history that BLG's bottom lane should have together, they are not playing as if they've necessarily had that down pat.
And we'll see if they can fix that this time around as we take a look at the runes as well a little bit here. It looks like Light with the PTA going maybe for a more crit-oriented build, as on the other side of things, we see him on the top side of the map. So it looks like Weibo going to opt into this lane swap once again. I feel like BLG should generally be okay with this, given that Maokai can survive relatively well, especially once he unlocks that Twisted Advance. Yeah. But it looks like that is going to be the play for now.
This is just to make sure that Bin doesn't get absolutely body like you're like, okay, we want to set the Jax behind as BLG, make sure that we're going for this, and it is a lot of gold and resources now going over to Weibo. How much can they actually index towards this Misfortune and Leona? They already were spotted early on, and look at where Tian is. He is on the bottom side of the map. There's early vision here from BLG onto the Raptors. So are we going to be getting a vertical jungle situation where Wei and Tian just split the map and say, you can have one side, I'll take the other? Or are we going to have him actually properly be able to do both sides of his own camps and look to try to cover on a crash?
I'd imagine it'd be a little bit more standard. Just I would think invading when the the two-man bottom lane is in the area would be a little bit risky here if you are either jungler, and so looks like maybe we're going to be playing a little bit more in terms of standard lane swap protocol here. Both junglers pathing towards their strong sides, as both top laners are very sad and very much looking forward to the next patch where they won't have to deal with this anymore.
Please get rid of... I mean, I will be fair. I'm very afraid of that next patch. But thankfully, we don't got to talk about that until after playoffs is over. So
yeah, I can't wait to see like which team. I can't wait to see like which team decides to like come up with some crazy strat that might help them or also like might really screw them up. That'll be fun for next split. But right now, we're focused on this match here where the lane swaps do exist.
And right there, that was a really good trade from Xiaohu. Has a lot of HP and also has a lot more mana than Knight right now. So Knight's probably going to be forced to recall after this wave. Xiaohu can go down, but Knight going for
really wants to get this in.
Yeah, he goes for the phase rush tree, so he's instead wanting to prioritize getting as much movement speed so he can move around the map, really kind of move around the battlefield as well. See this dive potentially coming in. I think it's a bit tough. Again, you're playing, it's level 2 Maokai.
And On is on the way as well. Big stun going to connect here from Tian. That will likely make the dive happen, but no! Bin flashes away. He heals up from On's help, and that'll be first blood picked up here for BLG. Bin will go down in a trade, but that is very, very worth it for Bilibili.
On the opposite side, look at where Wei is. He's invading in the bot side jungle. There's no camps for him to take. They're not going to even be able to make a dive happen on this bottom side. So the flash and the teleport now are down from Bin. It's a plate here for Light. And honestly, as Weibo, you're going to just have to take the advantage that you got from that trade and feel pretty good about it.
Surprising that it was a 1-for-1. Really nicely done by On to get there on time. And nicely done from Bin as well to keep himself alive for as long as he did. I thought when that initial W came out from Tian, stunning him up, that would likely have been the end. But now, Bin has put himself in a position where it's going to be very difficult to dive him again without utilizing significant amount of resources.
Yeah, there's a great cover, I think, coming in from On as well. So, need to see what else we get from BLG. Breathe with Counter-Strike, depending on where the wave is, can actually solo kill Elk. So Elk got to be just a little bit careful. On is on his way back down towards the bottom side. You also see that Wei is walking forward. and mid-prio also going over in favor of Knight. So at any moment they can make this turn. You can see that Elk is just like, guys, can I please have my support?
Okay, that forced a flash. I mean, I feel like Elk was just, he clicked forward a couple times too many for my liking at the very least. I know you're an AD carry player. You know a little bit more of the
It's just Jax, dude. I'm never allowed to walk forward
tough.
versus this guy. Like, he just has Counter-Strike. My entire champion class is dead. I walk up to this guy now at level 5, and he has more base stats than I do. It's actually unwinnable for me. So, yeah, I get it, Elk, but he loses flash now. So coming into these next plays, Leona, Tian even following on top of him, those are going to be big crowd controls that he's not really going to be able to deal with outside of just using his cleanse.
And so with that, Elk will go back up to the top side of the map with those grubs spawning about 20 seconds. Interesting to note, Bin does not have his teleport. Remember, he used it to try to pick up the last half of that wave that he lost on the initial dive. So with him on the bottom side of the map and Breathe having his TP, Weibo should have a relatively easy time of going for the grubs. And BLG know this and instead opt to picking up this Mountain Dragon. They've had very good dragon control in the early portions of each game.
And the grubs will feel so much nicer for a champion like Jax being able to split on the side lane. And how much damage Breathe actually does on these turrets is going to be important. Just, again, we were looking at BLG. They have great tools for being able to set up a team fight. And it's going to be on Weibo to be able to...
wave 6.
Ooh. Maybe they can play on his bottom side. Breathe has flash and the ult as well as the Counter-Strike now. I think it's tough. I think this dive is tough.
You're right. Part of me was thinking like he was going to send it all the way back to the grubs, but instead helping out Bin a little bit, making sure he gets his wave in. Nice guy Wei, helping his top laner out.
We'll see. Look at the top side right now. So much vision, so many pings as well. Weibo really want to see if they can try to force under this turret. I think it's difficult with how much wave control that Xayah accidentally has by just putting down feathers. She's just able to match a lot of the wave clear. And finally get to see Knight move out from mid. He's just doing a little bit of cursory mid. Oh,
okay. There are those semi-globals in the mid lane that we were talking about. We said that the BLG mid jungle had to get ahead, and they do so here, taking down Xiaohu. Knight picks up the kill.
There we go. We wanted to see it a little bit earlier, but honestly, I'll take it. You know that Victor is an immobile mage, without, especially if he has flash. You have to be able to force a summoner spell or force the issue. And now, seeing this play, Hung misses the Eclipse and the E, so I don't know if guys.
Well, the bullet time comes out though. Tian slowing with the Heartbreaker. That is enough to take the Xayah down. But now Light is in a precarious situation, and Wei is here to try to follow things up. And now it's a 3v1. Even though it's under the turret, Wei could be in some trouble without that paranoia. Tian with a stolen away Xayah body going to land the Blade Caller. Another tower shot will take down Light as he just walked a little bit too close to that tier 1. The Q from Wei will not take down Hung. But BLG at least make it a relatively even trade with Wei coming to the rescue.
What the hell was that dive, guys? That was so sloppy. I mean, Hung doesn't have the E anymore, and well, they end up forcing the trade. It's some kills going over. We're 3-3 now. That just felt so strange. I want to look at this again. Yeah, he gets the Q off, and now we see Light be able to deal damage on his backside. They're able to kill Elk, and after this, they just get pincered, and so many summoner spells used during this. The flash from Light, the flash from Elk, and the cleanse. Turret juggling just not as tight this time. There's no minion wave. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
There's no shot they thought they could kill Wei there, right?
Even if they did, we're going to go over in the tape. That one's going to, the coach is going to be like, guys, we just, like, we're making, it's a tough timer for us to pull off. As soon as we miss the E, probably just have to pull out of the play, but we commit to it, and we now live in the world where that is a permanent part of history in this game. And now, 9 minutes, we've got a minute and a half before the next set of grubs, 2 minutes before the Dragon. I think we're really looking at how BLG are going to be able to take their ultimates, especially with that Nocturne coming on up soon.
He's already posturing aggressively to try to make a little bit of himself known in the bottom side jungle here for Tian. At least just scouting him out a little bit with that Dragon not spawning for another 2 minutes. It will be BLG's jungle support duo heading back to base. Now we talked about, you know, Knight and Wei going into this game, but we've talked about Wei and On throughout this series as kind of a common theme. It's sometimes when they are combined together, it results in a lot of good things happening, but when they're separate, maybe that's where BLG struggle a little bit more. And now you can see the two of them starting to posture together a little bit, be that primary engage for BLG.
Xiaohu uses the ultimate, Seems like he's just trying to force Bin out from the wave. You want to have the ultimate available for the upcoming Grubs fight. Has a teleport to be able to match. Bin is going to force the reset and actually cancels it. So even if he is late, BLG can look to fight for this. They're trying to get vision that is going to stick so they can find TP vision. Knight is also pushing on this top wave and will have first save if he really wants to make the play for it. But it seems like we're not really going for that. And Weibo instead, they have access through mid. They're going to push mid first and then look to move into either one of these objectives.
Bin is still getting pressured out. He does have the teleport if he wants to head back to base for a quick reset, and might prove to be worthwhile with Tian hovering on the bottom side. But Knight, now the one who actually gets caught out here. The solar flare comes through from Hong, and that is Tian picking up that kill. 1-0 in favor of Weibo in this engage so far, but you already see Wei hovering towards that Grubs, wanting to even up that count. Weibo, though, with that numbers advantage, want to make something happen here. They already have Breathe on this side. Bin going to try to match with the teleport.
Okay. Can BLG look for the turn? Weibo, they're able to find that kill, and I will say, that was a great mid lane ward. The ward that's right under that last caster creep that just died right there. Spots Knight, and ends up finding themselves the kill. They grab so much time on the map, and it is Wei who is able to grab at least one of the Grubs, and eventually gets the teleport timer out from both Bin and from Knight. So Tian on this jungle is starting to get really supercharged. He's a little bit behind it in experience, but he has a lot of camp still to do. He's 3-0-1 on this Viego with a completed Trinity Force. We need to see this guy pull off a carry performance if we Weibo are going to be able to take Game 3 here.
He's making his way down here towards the Dragon to try to even that count up. We are trading back and forth these objectives on either sides of the map as we have come across what is, I think so far, a very close game number 3. Sure, the gold right now is in favor of Weibo by a decent chunk, but a lot of that is towards Tian, and it's going to be up to him, as you say, to be the one to get these kills, because right now he is the most fed member here in the game.
And they've completely neutralized a lot of the impact that when we're talking about regular laning. Wei has not really put a lot of focus towards Bin. Rightfully so, he's playing Maokai, right? But whenever he's allowed to cover him, he does. I mean, this is one of the large strengths of BLG is the individuality of their solo laners, how impactful they can be in a lot of fights. And so far in the series, we've only really gotten one game of Bin impact. That second game on Ambessa just wasn't in, and here on the Maokai, he is very limited in his options to make game-changing plays here. So I wonder if some of the meta, some of the fact that we are lane swapping so often is hurting BLG's ability to start and find fights.
That's fair enough. BLG and Bin, especially in these last 2 series, you think specifically to the Thunder Talk one against Hoya, who historically has been a very good weak side player, was able to get a handle over a player here like Bin. And now on this Maokai duty, not really in much of a position to do anything until we get to some of those later game team fights. And at that point, just really a CC bot. We know Bin is this player who has gotten a pentakill in World Finals, who has done a ton of really good things on carries, and now in this new role, gonna have a different test this time around here for BLG.
So we've got Dragon spawning in 3. The big one for me that I'm looking at now is we're getting close to 14 minutes with Otacon is going to get revealed as to where it is, extra terrain, and that Herald in 2 minutes. Big objective for both of these teams. I think one that both of them are going to be looking at, especially when we're talking about someone like Weibo with these ultimates. Double Triforce now completed for your top and jungle, and Xiaohu is going to be finishing up on this Sarah soon, so we'll have additional survivability coming into a fight.
Breathe, able to pick up the first tower of the game. That is the feats of strength going towards Weibo. Now jumping in on Tonight to try to fight this down to 1v2.
No way.
Goes in with a Counter-Strike flash and will take down Knight. Now the next target is Elk, but with the paranoia coming in, it will be a shutdown going in towards the enemy to carry. But what a fight coming out from Breathe, getting the tower and a kill. A big chunk of gold towards Weibo once again.
The kill is great, the turret's even better, and they're also able to grab damage onto this mid lane turret and cut Weibo, or cut BLG from the rest of this map. It's going to be a large focus onto this bottom tier 1. Tian's got to be careful. He doesn't have too much backup in the area. This is such a good play and a great trade coming in from Breathe.
They're going to trade those towers once again, but because Breathe was able to get that bot tier 1 first, net positive so far for Weibo Gaming as Light will extend the gold lead to 2,000 on the red team's favor. Remember, we all, on the analyst side here on LPL English, really favored BLG to come away here with this series based off of their recent play and also the history that these two teams have shared over the past 2 years. But so far, Weibo, over these last couple of games, are really making us question that.
We had a couple of questions as to what Breathe on this Jax was going to do. He had very minimal impact in the past couple of games, but this time is just outplaying. And honestly, this feels like a series so far where Knight really hasn't been activated in this game or in this series at all. Had that mistake in mid, dies on side lane now versus this Jax. It is incredibly difficult. And one of the things that we talked about from draft was that BLG were a composition that will struggle if they don't have an overwhelming gold lead or they're not able to really set up around fights. You do not want to have to be walking in versus a Jax. Taliyah is not a very competent side laner, especially in comparison. So we're seeing it time and time again. BLG not really respecting some of the strengths and I think overplaying some of their hands. Oh, now he get caught.
Yeah, he is definitely in some trouble as the Paranoia in just to confirm the kill and potentially even look for more. Tether lands in onto the Viego and Tian in a lot of trouble. It will be another kill picked up here for Elk as Xiaohu forced to pop the Arcane Storm and run for the hills with the Rift Herald now on the menu for BLG.
Legendary caster curse, setting up all the great parts of Weibo into immediately a great team fight for BLG, who grabbed themselves the Rift Herald and the flash from Xiaohu. So wonder if they'll be able to make a big enough impact onto them as they're now sending Light over. They recognize that, look, we didn't get much on, we're not going to be able to get much on the top side. This Victor is going to be able to wave clear by himself. Let's see if we can get as much damage onto his bottom tier 1 and even maybe set up for a dragon as Tian respawns and is immediately out onto the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, and you saw with the priority that was used there by Light, probably will allow them to get first hands on that. Let's take another look at this play. This is the play from Knight roaming around that we wanted to see out of this Taliyah pick.
I mean, Hung is just too far up, right? Like, this has happened so many series so far for Weibo. Hung by himself on a side lane in the river, got caught out in game 1, and here again, he's with his jungler, but his jungler's not necessarily in the same spot, and gets both of them down, as well as the shutdown from Tian. So a pretty big pickup for BLG, as Xiaohu is going to drop the ultimate, get mid priority, or top lane priority versus his mid lane counterpart, and take a reset. I mean, look, we've got Otacon spawning in 2 minutes. Any small bit that you can try to eke out of your opponent, I mean, the summoner spell, the ultimate CD is going to be up before this fight anyway, so might as well.
Both mid laners picking up that Seraph's Embrace for a little bit of extra sustainability as Knight immediately teleports in to the top lane, going to get targeted up by Hong, but look at Wei dashing underneath the tower with the Paranoia. Here comes On as well with the quickness. Xiaohu is ticking, but will survive. Now Breathe with a massive flank off of the teleport is looking to rip apart BLG. Here comes Tian as well with the Heartbreaker. It's already 1 kill picked up. They're looking for more as they continue to try to chase down BLG. On dashes away with the grand exit, and Tian will be unable to pick up any more. A chaotic fight overall at 2-for-1 in favor of BLG.
The flash and the teleport out from Knight. Don't know if that's worth it. Like you were saying, it's a 2-for-1. It'll get a little bit of gold, but look what Weibo are able to get on the backside of this. It's another few mid waves here for Light. It'll be hopefully this top tier 1 if they can help it.
Yeah, Breathe just trying to set up time for Light. Flashes forward here with the counter-strike, finds a big stun, will be able to escape with his life. Light does not have the bullet time available, but it will be enough damage for Tian to pick up the kill on the Bin. That is another one going towards Weibo. They want this top tier 1, they want it bad. All 5 of their members on the top side of the map.
BLG's mid laner, a star in the making and a legend here, one of the best mids ever seen in the LPL. Is just crumbling so far, and this is an elimination series. This is one of the worst times to have your stars not being able to play up here, and he's getting caught. He's having to force his own summoner spells. It's so dangerous as a Taliyah to no longer have the flash, and we're seeing it time and time again. Breathes Jax is just going right in, slams counter strikes, and we get to see where exactly this kind of play ended up going. This was after the ultimate was already used. This was
insane, by the way.
Yeah, Xiaohu just cancels his back. He didn't even see that the ward was getting the TP on. And now you're in a position where, yeah, Xiaohu ends up going down. Okay, I want everybody at home. I'm so sorry to do this to one of the GOATs, but please watch this Maokai ultimate. Our observers are going to show it. Yeah, you got hugged by the kitty cats. Happens, but this fight is so good, and Breathe and Tian are playing incredibly.
Oh, another fight under the mid lane turret. Here comes BLG. Light's already down, and now Hong is the next target. It's another kill in for Knight. A double kill for the Talia as they break open the tier 1 turret and now use that Rift Herald to rotate towards the Otacon buff that has just spawned.
How much damage can they get done, and how much of this map? I think they're afraid. They know that Tian is alive. They see that Breathe pushed a little too far into mid, but it's just a leap strike, and that'll be the objective. The Herald goes top. Xiaohu's going to be able to catch this and kill this off. It's a small bit of reprieve here for BLG, who buy themselves time on the map.
Just a little bit of time with that really well-executed play. And, you know, Alk, we've been talking about how Weibo have had control of this game. That gold right back down to 1,000 after this one.
So what happened? We were in replay city this entire time. Yeah, it just opens up the bullet time. And we talked about it in draft. Rakan and Nocturne, a very potent duo for being able to find engagements. It's a miniature Orianna Shockwave as much as you want to find it. And they grab Light, they grab the mid-tier one, so being able to push mid lane and move out towards objectives is not going to be as easy as it has been for Weibo so far this game.
And so with that, right back to things being very, very close, and I'm glad that we've gotten a very competitive series between these two teams here, Alka. I was looking at the history, the matchups that happened in 2024, and I was a little worried that we were going to have a bit more of a one-sided one. I've never been more happy to have my prediction be incorrect before going into a series.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad that you're happy that we're getting more of a series than we thought we were. Weibo have been, I thought that Weibo were going to be a top 4 team, and they need to be able to prove it. Uh-oh.
Another fight being forced here in the mid lane is already Xiaohu is forced to flash away. Teleport in from Bin is very far forward, but he's going to be matched alongside Wei. All the way forward, BLG do dive, but look at Breathe cleaning things up on the back line with a teleport flank of his own. Already just a 1-for-1, looking for a little bit more as Bin finally will drop. As Tian gets himself another reset and potentially looking now towards the dragon that Weibo want to control.
Oh my god, Xiaohu gets caught in mid, so much damage coming in. And it took a long time for him to die. He was getting shielding from the locket from Hong. You also had the Seraph shield as well, which provided so much time. And look at the summoner spells that were used there. Bin TP'd into that play. He wanted to try to make something happen. And they were able to trade a couple of great summoner spells. No flash from Tian, no flash from Xiaohu. Want to catch exactly how this happened here. Okay, so On was looking for an engage. Elk putting some pressure down with the feathers. Yeah, the fact that Xiaohu lives for so long in this play is at a detriment to BLG.
I mean, that was such a big shield that he was able to generate. I mean, it looked like Xiaohu was just going to be immediately dead, but the fact that he lived for so long was massive here as Tian now on this Viego. 7-1-1. Now, I remember I was maybe a little bit critical of Tian on this Viego when Weibo was playing in game number 5. Just a couple of weeks ago in their series against JDG. But so far, it's been all good here for him, for this player.
You're going to curse it, man. You're going to curse it. What happened in that game 5 versus JDG?
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Okay,
Weibo looked like they were in control. I'll shut up. It's fine.
Let them close out. Let them close out at least. And then we can be like, you know, hey, you did a much better job
I'm just trying to do my job. And you are harassing me, heckling me. Come on.
Look, someone's got to do it. Someone's got to do it on the show, okay? the chatters are not enough. We're not even looking at Twitch chat, okay? So if we want to feel bad about ourselves, we gotta take charge. We gotta ruin our own day before they do. So
that's right.
Got a long series, hopefully, and not only just this series, got another series after this. TS and IG coming up immediately after this series goes forward. So got to be seeing. We know what is it called? Baron in 45. Otacon is still on the table. Dragon in 3, and it's a potential soul here for Weibo.
Yeah, didn't realize that, but the Dragon stacking for Weibo has been very, very good this game. You know, over the past 2 games of this series, it was actually BLG who had more of the control around those, but actually the big thing I want to take a look at right now is just actually the Blood Roses. BLG have 23 to Weibo's 3, and you know, that could mean the difference in some of these fights, given that things have been so close.
It's a little bit of an adaptive force. It's a little bit of experience. I don't expect it to be making a large difference in these fights, but you can kind of see it mostly reflected, I think, in our AD carries. Elk is now 4 items AD carry on the Xayah, so this got to be a performance where he puts up or shuts up. As someone who has been on the roster for so long, had a storied career beforehand where it really didn't have too many results, was kind of part of a WE that didn't look all that great, but his addition to BLG and kind of the story afterwards has been really impressive to see, and we need to be able to have those big carry moments when they carry.
Paranoia, it comes out. Knocks 3 away, but a big seismic shove comes through from Knight, and that is the shutdown first picked up. Tian, the main carry for Weibo, is down. Bullet time on the other side is big, though. Light chunks everybody down to half, but half is not enough for any kills, as everybody on BLG still stands tall. The 2 carries for Weibo are still alive, and they can dish out a ton of damage if they are given the opportunity to, but BLG are looking to shut the door. They try to break open this tier 1 turret and split Xiaohu and Light from each other. It's already been a 3-for-0. It could potentially be more, as Xiao is on the wrong side of the map. He has a death race. He's going to get away here from that seismic shove, but here comes On. He lands the grand entrance and will take Xiaohu down.
There's the teleports coming in, and Bin literally TP'd behind him. They were going to start the Otacon. They don't want to go for this. Why are BLG so hesitant? There's no smite here from Wei, and maybe with some of the low HP members, they're thinking Light will be able to return as we hop right into the replay of this. And it is, I mean, a great cutoff. A lot of criticism going over tonight, but this wall stops a large portion of Weibo from entering, and then a shove that just completely destroys their backline. There's no setup for this bullet time. Bin is also here, and then the rest of the fight is history. BLG spent a lot of time chasing after Xiaohu, which stops them from picking up this objective in the Otacon or the Baron.
And I love how quickly BLG are willing to press the go button, just like we're going to see right here on to Light. He already flashes away. The grand entrance does connect, and now BLG have to go on the run. But that is a big summoner spell down on the Weibo 80 carry, and that could be enough for BLG to start to hover around a major objective or two. They're looking at this Otacon. They want it. They see it in their eyes, but they're just a little bit hesitant to start this objective up.
They can't do it. They know that bullet time is coming up. Yes, Light did lose his flash, but he has Bloodthirster, right? So he'll be able to heal as long as he's able to at least auto a couple of minions and breathe in a side lane right now. Level 15, almost 16 on this Jax. He is going to be a menace for BLG to deal with. Now that Bin nor Knight have teleport, it is very difficult for them to match on side lanes. So they either need to be able to match on lanes and then move, or overload onto a play, which seems like that's going to be the case for them as the Dragon is spawning. And this could be Soul for Weibo, but Tian took too late of a recall. He's not anywhere near this position. And BLG are not even starting it. Look who's recalling.
Them not starting it has allowed for Tian to get back here and make it a 50-50, so now BLG have to be careful and can't actually just decide to burst this down 100-0. Now gives Weibo a little bit of angle. Dragon gonna reset. Bin, blast cones over the wall, and now the battle lines have been drawn. Ultimates available for every single player, as this could get bloody. Here comes the Nature's Grasp. Weaver's Wall going to try to block out Tian, as BLG going to burst down the Dragon, and it will be secured by Elk. But look at Breathe on the flank. Has the Counter-Strike procced, but does not want to pull the trigger as he was too far ahead of the rest of his team.
A rough early game has now turned into a pretty solid mid-game here for BLG. We're almost 30 minutes into this, and now Weibo feel lost. There's no ability for them to interact with the Talia wall. It stops them from getting into a play. It stops them from this massive flank in Breathe, and they take a mid-tier or two off of it. They'll be able to take some more jungle camps. I wonder if it's just one more fight before BLG pull the trigger on one of these epic monsters on the top side.
And again, just really love the initiative that BLG have taken in terms of starting fights, because it means that, you know, the Wombo combo composition that Weibo have never really gets the full opportunity to set up. But I wish they just would, you know, pull one of these Barons, pull the Otacon, because I feel like they are very strong in the 5v5 right now, especially if they are the ones who are forcing Weibo to fight.
This is such a tense part of the game. The snap engage that we saw from game 1 that led to a success for BLG is back here again. And can they take control of mid? They're using Xayah and this Talia to really zone them out into this river brush.
Agreed.
He's got to be careful.
Yeah, and now Hong is the one potentially caught out. He's chunked down to half HP with a Nature's Grasp already coming out. The Leona is dead before she can cast a single spell. And now it is going to be another kill over to BLG as Breathe will fall. Here comes the Weaver's Wall. Knight with a seismic shove to take down Light. It is another one picked up for Elk. Another 3 for nothing for BLG as Tian and Xiaohu are forced to run for the hills. Now with 3 members on their side in their advantage, will this be the time that BLG starting up an objective?
And the setup is just so sloppy here for Weibo. They are not able to get damage down. They're not able to stop this Talia. It's just so clean here for BLG. They're making really good snap calls onto, hey, we're turning onto this objective, we're turning onto this player, make sure that we're focus firing them, and they'll take the Baron. Knight's gonna TP, they're gonna start up this. Otacon Tian is in the area, but he'll have to walk over Vision, and he just does he has no way of entering the pit.
Wow, so after that one fight, that was the play that BLG needed to take both the Baron and the Otacon in the top side of the map. We'll take another look at this one, and Hong just was looking to pull the trigger, but gets caught out a little bit too early on.
I mean, my boy Light, this ultimate does nothing, bro. We're part in the Red Seas here. No one's allowed to enter the red ramp. Cool, says BLG. We'll take the control of the rest of the map here. And Knight, hey, he uses his flash this time as a offensive measure. Moves forward, grabs a couple of flashes, forces Tian to have to say, oh, wait, maybe I have to back up here, and they grab some kills. So BLG seem like they have found their footing in this game after what was a bit of a wonky mid-portion.
And now I think I might have done it all. I might have cast a curse Tian. He was 7-1, and
dude,
since then he hasn't really done too much. So maybe you were right. Maybe this was not the moment here for Weibo, as they are staring down a potential match point for BLG, potentially their season coming to an end if they drop just one more after this one. BLG have the Baron buff for the next minute and 30 seconds, and they're going to use that to try to add to their gold lead, which is approaching 5,000.
Weibo have been so sloppy about making sure that they're getting gold that now they're starting to fall behind as well. Yes, it's Breed that does have an advantage, but we talked about this bottom lane. Elk is now up 30. Mid lane as well, as the case here for Knight. So they're slowly losing out on resources, and you already see almost level 18 here for Knight, and Tian just can't do anything. He has to use the Heartbreaker to get out from mid. They're just losing everywhere. And
now the Nature's Grasp comes out. That will at least lock up Xiaohu, and maybe Bin looking for the play. But instead, BLG just going to take down this bot lane inhibitor with mid lane next on the menu, with another wave crashing in very, very shortly. Going in forward, just trying to lock down Breathe right now, who forces to go golden. Bin flashing over the Weaver's Wall. Again, the bullet time not doing too much, but is it enough to take down Bin? The answer is no. The healing is there, and Bilibili Gaming are ravaging this team fight. Hong is now the next target with the Eclipse. Light tries to flash forward to pick up something, but BLG will reign supreme and take us to match point in this series.
They kill Xiaohu, and that will be it for game number 3. Weibo, with an incredible opening, are not able to close it. It's 23-9. Game score would have told you this was a one-sided game, but the complete different here for the rest of the game. And now 33 minutes, and we're at match point for BLG.
And you talked about it going into the draft, Alk. It was the mid-jungle for BLG that needed to make plays. It was the Nocturne Talia combo, these champions that have these semi-global ultimates that are able to work their way around the map. They started their plays towards the mid lane, but then once that happened, they were able to influence the sides, and they were able to decide when they wanted to fight. As soon as anybody on Weibo was caught out just a little bit, that paranoia came out, and that team fight was won.
Same thing happened in game 1, where with the Sejuani and the Alistar weighing on, they found engages. They were like, oh, you actually stepped up a little too far there. We're going to throw all of our ultimates at you and make sure that we're able to open up a fight for our team. And I think part of that is maybe BLG feeling a little unsure about where they needed to stand in certain fights. I think that's why I had some criticism towards Knight. But as the game went on, we got to see him more and more aggressively move forward, put down walls, and get some damage down, and really utilize, I think, some of the strengths of this Talia with that Unraveled Earth.
Yeah, we were a little bit hesitant even going into the game of, does this team have enough damage? Is that Talia on 5 enough to make this a composition that is able to win fights in the late game? And when you are able to get that mid jungle ahead, when you're able to have that influence players like Elk as well, it was enough for BLG to run away with this one. And Weibo looked like they were in control for a large portion of that game. It was another instance of Tian having a very good early game where he was able to get ahead, this time once again on the Viego. But after 20 minutes or something, like clockwork, Weibo were unable to set up around those major objectives, and they kept getting collapsed upon with this snap engage of BLG.
And I loved, I think, what Weibo were able to do in the early portions, but the team fights just weren't all there. Hong never really got a meaningful ultimate onto some of the stunned members of BLG, setting up for the bullet time. Light, I feel his misfortune was pretty squandered for the most part. And then we get into fights, and the fight is not able to occur. I feel bad for Breathe. This is a rare case where I'm like, okay, our top laner actually was able to have some impact on the map, but this Jax never got into a great enough flanks position because of things like the Talia wall or his team just dying before he was very relevant.
Yeah, and it's one of those compositions that has a little bit of anti-synergy with itself, because you have the MF Leona that wants to just have a full-on, front-to-back team fight, and then you have things like the Viego or even the Jax that maybe work a little bit better with picks, with picking up people one by one, and looks like they were unable to make use of both of them, or either of them, I should say, as Weibo now falling to a 2-1 in terms of the series score against BLG. You could take a look here at the post-match screenshot. Elk on the Xayah was able to get so much done because of the work that Wei and Knight did.
Who are you feeling for MVP? Just because I feel like we're getting into a situation where we are very realistically at the end of our series after this game.
There's still more League of Legends to play. BLG, they still need to take one more, but
they got one more, but I don't know. From what Weibo have showed me this season, I think this is a split 2 angle looking likely.
We've been giving it to the junglers so far. Maybe I'll change things up and give it to Knight. I know we didn't have the strongest start of the game, but those later Weaver's walls, I think, really did a lot for BLG.
For sure. Knight, put up where I was the one that was like, hey, I think you might have a question mark game. He came up good, okay? So I'll take egg on my face. I'll be it's a bit of accountability here. Knight on the Talia was a lot more impactful, and that has been, I think, the case for the past couple matchups versus Xiaohu. Xiaohu has not had much to say in this series at all. Even in the second game where they won, the Rise felt more like a, hey, I am so tanky, you actually can't kill me. I am an unmovable piece of the map for my team. And this time around on the Victor, he just didn't have the same impact. We're trying to solo kill Bin, we're trying to force the issue onto some of the tanky members, but the composition just didn't work for Weibo this game.
Yeah, and you could think that maybe BLG's style of the way they played those fights ended up countering as well. Weibo is one of those. It seemed like Weibo were a team that wanted to play the fights out a little bit longer, have things go more on the extended side. But BLG were so all in on just making things happen immediately, and never let that full composition for Weibo to never gave him the time to cultivate, to grow, to really develop into that team fighting monster that we thought could have been when we saw the draft here for Game 3. So already now, Weibo down to match point. I mean, I feel like still a lot of the issues that we were talking about at the start of the series, retaining into the mistakes that they've been making here. Any changes that you want to see from them going into game number 4?
I want to see a mid lane champion that's going to let Xiaohu get more active. I know that they have been on the red side, so they've been banning stuff like the Kalista, the Skarner, and now the Aurora, but I feel like those champions were really good at letting Xiaohu move. The Lucian champion that we saw in their JDG series, kind of similarly, I want to allow Xiaohu to have plays early. So I think a Silas, I think again, like the Aurora, I don't want to see Xiaohu LeBlanc again this season. Maybe give it a little bit of time. Maybe in Split 2 we can get that back, but I want to give him the ball so that he can play with Tian, because that, I think, was some of the best we've seen from Weibo earlier on into the season.
Think about these high priority